Hello, welcome to my channel, Curtis Jones Writing. I've been reading my books one chapter at a time and posting them. I've just finished with Dad's Old Truck, Book One, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm learning how to do this, so be patient with me. I will eventually have it down pat. But today we're starting with Dad's Old Truck, Book Two. I've written 14 books, and I wanted to post them on YouTube, one book at a time. So we're trying to get started. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. If you do, hit subscribe and hit the bell, and you'll be notified every time I post a new video. Uh, the books I have written are my life story, basically, and my family history. Then I've written some books for entertainment, and I've written some books for religious purposes. But I will go through all of them as we go through this. I expect it to take me about a year to work my way through all the books. I hope you enjoy them. Share them if you do. All of the things I've written and talk about are uh, good for mixed company, for children, for good Christian folks. So this Dad's Old Truck Book Two, Volume Two is what it is. It's the continuing saga of one little boy, is the subtitle, and I describe all the things I can remember of my young life up until about 18 when I got married, and I hope you enjoy them. I hope you look forward to each successive story. This one in chapter one is The Pie Supper, and it's a story I remember so well. It was easy to write, and it was a fun time. It says the childhood memories from 1955. I spent about a year in the school here in Muskogee. This was a little country school with two rooms, just like we had left in Wagner, Oklahoma. There were a lot of one and two room schools in the country at that time. This school sat where a golf course sits today. I drove back to see it, and that's all that was there. They were building a new school to replace this two room building when I started. It would be complete before the school year was up in 1955. The rooms were divided by age groups, and small children were in my classroom because I was a small child. The small children included grades 1 through 4, where me and my sister Mary attended. My big, the big kids were from grade 5 to grade 8, where my sister Betty attended. The entire school had only 22 students and two teachers. One teacher was the principal, and the other was the cook for the school, which things were included in their duties. This school also had pie suppers and cakewalks, which were used to raise money for Christmas presents for the children. Most of the small schools in Oklahoma at that time sponsored these events or events like these for that purpose. Pie suppers were a way for small schools to raise money for special events like Christmas. Although I never experienced a cakewalk, I do remember what pie suppers were like. These kind of fundraisers didn't seem to work well in larger schools or in larger communities, but they were a wonderful way for small schools to create community events that set them apart from the big schools. It gave us a feeling of community. I remember when we held the pie supper at this school. It was held in the new building because it had a very large dining room. We also held our Christmas party in that same lunchroom at the new school. The biggest thing I remember about the new school was that the roof was flat. I wondered how they kept the water from coming in when it rained, but there's no accounting for what an 8-year old may think. I remember that the building had very tall windows in all the rooms. The windows went from my waist almost to the ceiling. The windows could be opened from the top and from the bottom at the same time, allowing heat to escape out of the top and a little cooler air to come in at our level because there was no air conditioning in our schools at that time. Our school had a wood stove in each classroom and the hall between the rooms, with an entrance at the front and an exit at the back of the hall. Each room had a door near the front door and a door near the back door that opened into the hall. We also had merry-go-rounds out the back door and a swing set nearby. The fence around the school was hog wire. We called it that because you put it on a farm to keep pigs in. The schoolyard was about an acre and had very little grass. It was mostly dirt. The school did not have a gardener nor a janitor. That work was done by the teachers and us students who volunteered. The last half hour of class was spent cleaning the building and the yard if there were anything to clean in it. All of us children agreed to do it and thought that it was fun to help the teachers rather than studying. Because the yard had very little grass, we were able to play marbles, which requires small holes. We could dig the small holes needed to play the games that we wanted to play. Marbles is a game where you crawl around on your hands and knees and shoot little glass balls called marbles at each other's little glass balls. In marbles, we played a game that was laid out like a baseball diamond, but very small. You would work your way around the diamond and end up at the pitcher's mound, which in marbles is a small hole the marbles could roll into. When you reached the pitcher's mound, you won the game. Another game was to draw a big circle and knock your enemy's marbles out of it. When you did, you got to keep their marbles. It was a form of gambling, I suppose, for little children. We were usually very careful of which marbles we allowed ourselves to use in this game. Certainly not your best or prettiest marbles because you stood a chance to lose them. This is where the marble Steelies came into play. They were made of steel ball bearings. They were very heavy and were very good at knocking other marbles out of the circle. Some kids thought that these were cheating, but they were the same size as the large marbles that we often used. One day the teacher came out the back door and rang the handheld school bell to indicate that we were to go back to our classrooms. However, my little sister Mary and I had waited almost all recess to get a turn at the swing. We decided we were going to swing for a few minutes before returning to class. So all of the other children ran into their rooms. We continued to swing as though we had not heard the bell. Mary and I were the only kids outside, and we were swinging to our little heart's content. We knew we shouldn't be, but we did not think of the consequences. Mary and I had our attention diverted by the principal of the school when she stepped out the back door, facing the swing set. She walked over to the swing set, and I then realized that we were about to be face to face with Mrs. Green and give her an answer for our actions. Mrs. Green cleared her throat with a gruff sound. I had already stopped swinging and was watching her walk toward us. My heart was in my throat, and I knew I had done wrong. Mary didn't see her coming and only became aware of her when she made that terrible sound. She always made that sound before she handed out punishment. That terrible sound was the sound of her wrath welling up. That sound stopped the music of the birds singing. My heart dropped to my stomach, knowing what was next. I didn't know if Mary knew what was waiting for us, but I sure did. Mrs. Green escorted us to our classroom. She stood us up in front of the whole class. We were then instructed on school policy about coming in when the bell sounded. We were asked why we did not come in when the teacher rang the bell. She impatiently waited for our answer while her foot tapped the floor. The sound of her foot striking the floor raised our anxiety level so to the point it was hard to breathe. Mary was already crying and sobbing as Mrs. Green waited for the answer that she so eagerly sought. I tried to open my eyes real wide and look like a sad little puppy because it worked with Mom. I hoped it would work with Mrs. Green. I could see in her eyes that it would serve no purpose, so I braced myself for corporal punishment. So I answered her question as to why we had not come in when the bell rang. I told Mrs. Green that my sister and I waited to swing, but no one gave us the opportunity. We decided that we would swing after everyone left. Mary and I seen Mrs. Green issue corporal punishment to other children that year. We knew when you stood in front of the class, you would receive a few swats. We always said we were glad for the teacher we had because she never gave anyone spankings. School had only been going on for 3 weeks when this event took place, but Mrs. Green had already given several spankings that year. She was not interested in my explanation, only that we had failed to obey school rules. Mary and I had become examples for rule breakers. Mrs. Green explained to us why, but it was also for the whole class, why we were going to be spanked. She said that she hoped we would learn a lesson from this that would carry us through the entire school year. With that said, Mrs. Green went to the big kids' classroom and came back with what looked like a boat paddle. This paddle was not that large, but to my little eyes, it looked like a plank of wood through these fearful eyes. Mary almost became hysterical by Mrs. Green's arrival. At this time, she was in second grade, and I was in third grade when all this happened. To calm her down and bring some order to the class, Mary got the first licks. She only got one swat and was told to take her seat, please. Then my turn came. I received three swats for being my sister's bad example. This was the only time in my long school history I received any punishment, thanks to Mrs. Green. We children had been told that there would be Christmas gifts given out this year, and I wanted a Paladin cowboy outfit. Paladin was a cowboy that starred, or cowboy star that came on every Tuesday night. We watched him every week. He had a business card with a knight's chest piece on it. It looked like a horse's head. This knight was on his holster. It was on his gun. It was on his business card. He dressed all in black from his hat to his boots. Even his gun handle was black with a knight symbol. He wore a black hat with a small silver horse symbol on the band. He even rode a black horse, and his boots were black with the same silver knight on them. As the story unfolds, he was the first gunfighter that was fair and just to all the people he faced. His show was about honesty and morality. He defended the downtrodden. I really liked him and what he stood for. All his all of us kids were shown a catalog from either Western Auto stores or J.C. Penney's department stores and told to make our selections from what was available there. The catalog had every toy I could have imagined. They were shown in full color and with detailed descriptions. Our teacher helped us to make our choices and guide us through the difficult read in the description section. We were each given a chance to peruse this catalog for several minutes to make our choice, which we did with great interest. The gifts were determined by the success of the pie supper, and this year we would each have available for our gifts a whopping $4.50. It may not sound like much in today's standards, but it was equivalent to two or three gifts at the same time. That was almost as much as we would have been given at our homes for Christmas. I was not able to get a Paladin, or I was able to get a Paladin pistol, holster, business card, and a rifle with the hat. We made our choices